Hello and welcome to today's training for Affinity. So we're just waiting for a few stragglers to join us. So I thought while we're waiting I would hop on and get started with hellos and all the usual things that we usually say at the beginning of class.
Is it on the list?
So yes please.
Okay, so we have Marie.
Hi Marie.
Sally.
Hi Sally.
Linda. Joyce.
Hi Joyce.
Carol.
Hi Carol.
Janine. Sandra.
And Sandra.
I don't think I've missed anybody so far.
Okay, so we're waiting for about another 3 or 4 people.
3. We should have 11 in total in the group, so hopefully. I did tag you all at the start, so hopefully everybody found that through the link.
Yeah, because Facebook notifications are rubbish.
Yeah.
And not working properly.
So if there's anybody loitering in the background who hasn't said hello yet, do pop a hi so we know you're here. That means it's one person I can tick off my list that's in the group.
Yep, Ian's keeping a register today. Detention for those of you that are late. Okay, so I've got Affinity open and ready to go. So if you want to have Affinity open, you don't need a document in it, just have it open. So as we go through today, we have a little bit of a time delay between what I'm saying and when you're hearing it. So if you do ask any questions, please be as specific as you can, just so that we know which bit you're referring to. Otherwise it tends to slow things down a little. If you have a graphics tablet, you can use it for this course. You don't have to have one. Go on in. What's my usual? I'm recording everything I need to for Affinity, really, don't I?
Yeah. Just don't be afraid to ask questions as normal. You know, we'll happily go over things and repeat. Like I said, just be specific with your questions so we know what we're repeating. So this morning's session will go till about 12 o'clock.
Yep.
Until Natalie thinks she's done all she can in the morning session. And then we'll come back. Mine looks different to yours. Is it because I'm on a Windows PC?
Possibly, and also because we can actually customise the workspace. So, what I'm going to do actually is just take these out of the way for now, and pop that one back in there. So you should probably have a panel that's down this side. If not, we'll show you how to set that up. The other thing that you might have that's different, so if I go into Affinity and Preferences, on the PC I think it's under the Edit menu probably for Preferences.
Properties, isn't it? Sally says mine looks different to yours as well.
You can have it so that you have it in dark or light. So if I switch to light, you'll see it goes light. And light is easier for certain icons. So you'll see sometimes I have it lighter. But dark is supposed to help reduce your eye strain. So if you've got a bit of a headache or you're suffering with your eyes at all, then sometimes it's easier to go to the dark. And this one you probably haven't got on a PC, so you can just ignore that. You can have your buttons in different sizes, so whether you want them default or large, doesn't make that much of a difference. Huh?
Everybody's screens look different. It might be as well because there's an extra studio panel, isn't there? It comes up usually on the side.
Yes, which is just here.
No, the other side. There's usually 2.
Oh, you're thinking like publisher style where you've got it on the left hand side.
Is that publisher? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, shut up.
You can see what we spend most of our time working in at the moment. So, what's everybody's vote? Are we going for dark, or do we want to go for light?
I think light. It looks better on the screen.
Okay, we can go light. Like I
my
said,
preferences isn't like that either.
You'll find that there's like some variations between what a Mac looks like and what a PC looks like. For starters, the PC will have all the closed things up on this side.
Yeah, and then there's light.
You can also change things like your grey levels, so when you have an artboard you'll see that there's like a grey area around it, so you can adjust that in here. If you are finding that you contrast in your buttons isn't enough, you can change your gamma for your user interface. So whenever you see it says UI, that's what they mean, the user interface. So all these buttons that are around here. And we can change the background grey level if we want to as well. Again, it's easiest to do those ones when you've actually got a document behind.
And light stands out better. Yeah, everybody's agreeing with the light on that.
Okay. So decimal places for unit types. I'm going to pop my points up to 3.
And Janine says she's found where you are now. Okay. So if everybody can let us know they found where they are and their preferences are all set.
Yeah, I'll leave mine up on there so you can match them all
You
up.
just pop an OK in the or a thumbs up. OK is probably easier because at least they stay. See that?
And you probably haven't got the enabled touch bar support, because that tends to be a Mac thing for the newer Macs.
Mauritius, where are you?
So we're just in the preferences. So in terms of a Mac, you go to Affinity Designer and it's just there. And on yours I think it's under Edit on PC.
I need to get the laptop out.
Might help. How many of you are on PC?
Joyce gives us a thumbs up.
Most of the other things should be in more or less the same place though and have the same names. It's just PCs don't have the ability to have that first menu.
Linda says all okay here on a PC. Sandra's on a PC.
Okay, so if you want to...
Marie's on a PC. Okay, let me go and grab the laptop and see if I can set it up here as well.
Yeah, you can always talk through the display then.
So it's got it now, you have to go preferences and pick what you are changing on Windows.
Yeah, so if you... There you go, I'll go that way. So usually, if you go back to that one, you can see all the different things that you can change. But it comes into usually the last thing that you've done. So in my case, it was the user interface, because that's what we did yesterday afternoon.
It doesn't have a font size as far as you can see. You can't change the font size of what she's...
Oh, this one here, the font user interface size. That could just be a Mac thing though.
So that's it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so long as everybody's sorted and happy that they can see everything, that's a good start.
So Marie, have you got there now? Check make sure she's got the right place.
You can set up the laptop, are you, Ian?
Try to, yeah.
Okay.
Make some space.
I was going to say, makeshift table.
suppose if I have it sideways on, then you can.
Then I can see it too.
Well.
Yeah. Okay. So while we're in preferences, I'll talk through those first. So general. Usually what you'll find is when you're working with Affinity on a day-to-day, you'll set it once and then you'll forget that most of these exist. So these are pretty standard. So we open documents on startup. So if you've had an issue and it's crashed, told you it went on the floor. Sorry, distraction. Then next one is import Photoshop document text as text rather than bitmap. Again, chances of you using that one are pretty slim if you don't already have Photoshop or Affinity Photo, because Affinity Photo can export to PSD too. Import smart objects where possible. I've left that unticked because it doesn't have the ability to handle them. The automatic hide extension, again, that's neither here nor there. Copy items as SVG. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, so I tend to leave it unticked.
Okay, Marie says no, so okay.
Okay, bear with me in one moment. He's just sorting out the laptop and he'll be able to give you exact instructions then. So save thumbnails with documents, obviously you want that one ticked, so that's so that we can see previews of the files without having to open everything. It does put up your file sizes a little bit, but for the majority of documents it's not going to be enough for you to worry about. Enable save over imported PSD files, that's not a good idea. Okay? Basically because while it can read PSD files, it can't read everything about them. So you could lose data as a result, so I usually leave that one unticked. Insert for the text as text, I leave that one unticked. Prefer to keep selection after delete. Yes, do. And load metadata from XMP sidecards, and you're thinking, what on earth does that mean? So metadata is the information that we can put into a file for copyright and all the other bits and pieces like that. The chances of you getting that involved with metadata are actually quite slim, beyond putting in who actually created the file. So you don't have to have that one ticked.
We're getting there. What is a PSD now?
A PSD is a Photoshop document, so it usually has lots of layers. It can have things called smart layers, which Affinity doesn't handle so well, so hence I have that unticked.
Okay, Marissa, she's found one that is but can't change screen colour.
Okay, so you haven't got the dark light, so it's UI style you're looking for.
Mouse is working, that's good. I'm cheating, I have a mouse up here.
Don't blame me for that one, save you bending over. I'm just waiting for his laptop to catch up. It's not the quickest. So the next one along is colour. So this relates to your colour profiles rather than anything else. So again, you're only really going to get into this.
Okay, cool.
Okay. You're only really going to get into this when you start to look at doing things like dye sub. So if you're doing dye sub, let Ian know in the comments, and we can go in a bit more detail about that separately towards the end of the day, just because it is quite an advanced concept, so I don't usually cover it in a beginner's tutorial. Okay, so performance. Again, you're only really going to get into this if you're finding that you're having lots of issues. So if you're finding that you're getting a lot of lag, you can actually drop down your view quality so that it actually works a little bit faster. So if you start to find that you're having issues with your computer and it's lagging, then you can go in there and fix it that way. It's a temporary fix, but it fixes it nonetheless. Tools. So this is how you're going to change things like your size of your arrow, if you're using brushes, the size of your brush, and so on and so forth. So you can also do lots of additional gestures if you feel that way inclined. And you can see I've got my tool handle size on large. I might put it up to largest for today just so that you can see it. You can set it so that you can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out rather than scrolling up and down, which if you're working on one artboard you might find that's a really good way for you to work. So you can always tick that on, play with it and see how you get on. You can use your shift modifier to cycle tools, which I will actually turn that one on. So what that means is if you have a tool that has a little arrow next to it in your toolbar, that means there's actually more than one tool there, so you can actually then cycle through them by using the same key press. So for instance, type is a T, and if you press shift and T it will go to your next option, which is going to be your frame text. So I'm going to go back here. You have keyboard shortcuts. Now, a lot of the shortcuts I'm going to teach you are going to be the standard ones, but you can actually create your own. So if you have a tool that you find you're using lots that you haven't got a shortcut for, you can go in and create your own, which can save you a little bit of time. And finally, in miscellaneous you have all your reset tools. So if you want to reset brushes, reset your object styles, reset your text styles. So basically it's like a big wipe and start again. Okay, so we're going to go and close. How are you doing?
Not great.
Is it not wanting to play ball? Have you broken the laptop?
I don't. I was just plug it in and turn it on.
Okay. So next we're going to go and start a new document. So if we go to File and we go to New, and because I've got mine up full screen, it puts it up as a little pop-up window and it goes to a different screen. Don't worry about it. When we click Create in a minute, it's going to go back the other way. So we have some presets that I've already set up. So let's say we want to set up another one. Give me a size, Ian. I'm running out of
300 by 300 mil.
Okay. So I'm going to go to 300 by 300. Okay, and DPI is your resolution of your file. So if it's just going to be a cut file and that's all you're going to do with it, you can leave that at 96. If you're going to want to print any elements, you're going to want to put that up to 300. So erring on the side of caution, because you never know where things are going to go when in these courses, according to questions, I'm going to put that up to 300.
Adrian says I've not got scan and cut on.
No, all these down here are ones that I've set up. So you won't have one that says scan and cut. Affinity's not that clever yet. It would be really good if it came with presets for all the different cutters, and that would save me a job. But no. Okay, document units. So millimeters. If you want to change it to inches at this point, you can. So if we go to inches, you'll see that it's going to automatically update your width and height so that it matches your unit. Okay. Colour format. Oh, okay, put that back to millimeters before I forget to. No, what not. Colour format. If you are doing cut files, it really doesn't matter. It makes no difference. If you are doing something that's going to print, however, change it to CMYK. You're then going to see that it's going to change your colour profile, and it's going to default to US web coated in all likelihood, because I haven't changed what it defaults to. So if you're going to be printing onto just plain card or paper, something that doesn't have a coating, you're going to go for an uncoated setting. If you're going to be working onto gloss card, you can go for a coated.
Sandra's just asked, can you change the units for each document you create?
Yes. Yeah. And you can set as many presets up as well as you want. So you'll see I've got a scan and cut 12 by 12 millimeters, and down here I have one in inches too. Also have one for the 12 by 24. Okay, so margins. It's useful if you're working with something where you can't print to the edge to put your margins in. But if you can do borderless printing, then you don't need to bother. So I don't tend to do it that way. Bleed. Bleed is where your design extends over the edge of your artboard. So you would use that, for instance, if you're going to take your artwork to a professional printer. You extend your design past the edge of the paper. They print it all with registration marks and crop it in a very scary looking machine that will have your fingers off. And that bleed is there basically to allow them the leeway to get that cut just right. So there's a tolerance of about 3mm that you usually set for bleeds. If you want me to tell you a bit more about bleeds and sending things to print professionally, let me know, and again I'll go into that in a bit more detail. But for now, because at the end of the day we don't all have professional printers that we can send stuff to, I'm just going to leave that all on 0. Okay, create artboard. If you want to tick that one, is good for when you're going to have multiple pages in a document. Now, if I was to click on my scan and cut setting at the moment, you'll see that that doesn't have that ticked. So if you're creating just a cut file on its own, leave the create artboard turned off. It's really, really important, leave it turned off. Because what that create artboard does when you're exporting it to SVG is it actually creates it as a separate shape, which can then throw out, bringing your document in at the right size, because it's automatically going to try and rescale it. Okay. So if we go to custom, we can click on the little plus and you'll see it's going to change to unnamed one. And we can give it a name. So if you right click where it says unnamed down here, rename preset, and I'm going to call it ins 300 by 300mm document. And that means that then we can use that in the future.
If printing on sticker paper, would you use uncoated?
Yes, because it's matte and absorbent.
So do you have boxes in blue? Is this a Mac thing?
Boxes in blue. Boxes in blue?
Is it the ones that you have selected maybe?
Like,
When you
yeah,
put it
that's
selected, it goes to
currently
different
active
colour.
maybe, yeah. So usually when you click on things, I'd expect it to highlight blue like that. And this one here is saying that it's going to be landscape, even though it's square. Okay.
Missed where you click to name.
So you just right click and you can rename it. And you can rename that whenever, so you don't have to do it right now if you want to rename it after you've played with it. So if you're setting something up and you want to check it's the right size, you can do that and then go back to it after and rename it once you're happy with it. So you can do that for your scan and cut. So if I go and click there now, you're going to see it automatically changes all this back to my scan and cut setting. So if you want to set one up for that while we're here, then it's always useful.
That just means it's found it.
So you can set as many presets up at once as you like. You don't have to create a new document in between.
Orientation is fully blue and the cancel button mine aren't.
It's probably shady grey then. And if laptop would behave, we could have a look and see what it comes up on your laptop. It's misbehaving.
I've double clicked Affinity to try and get it to open, but I might try and restart it. I might have to press an alt. I think it's a happy bunny.
No, it's not a happy bunny. It's got a big red X on it. That tends to say it's not a happy bunny.
That's only for Messenger though, that's nothing.
So, the 12x12mm mat for the scan and cut, I have it set up to 295.9 by 297.9 with a DPI of 96 because that is just literally going to be used for cut files. And again, I've left it at RGB, and the bleeds don't apply and the margins don't apply because I've already brought it into the active area. The 12x24 is 295.9 by 603 and all the same settings as the 12x12. And the other one that you're going to be interested in is the inches version. So that's 11.65 inches wide by 11.73 inches high and DPI of 96 and RGB. So when you're happy that you've got a few templates set up, well, presets, give Ian a thumbs up so he can see that you're all okay. And I'll show you across the rest of the panel. If you want me to repeat any of the sizes, I can do.
Do you want to just mention that it stays up, so if anybody misses anything or wants to go back, it's not.
Oh right, yeah. So if you do miss anything on any of the streams today, then they do stay up for as long as Facebook will allow us to keep them on here. So you can always come back at any point and revisit the videos. So don't feel if it doesn't go in this morning, oh no, I haven't learnt anything. No, just keep going back and practicing. Practicing is the most important thing when it comes to learning these skills. So the more you practice, the better and the more confident you will become.
Marie says okay.
Okay. So let's say you wanted to do something more standard like a stick of paper. You already have A4 set up, so you can go in there and then just tweak it. Press ready again is relating to bleed, so you don't need to worry about that most of the time. Photo is more like your common photo sizes, so you've got your 6x4, your 10x8.
Okay, Lindsay, can you repeat the sizes for scan and cut, please? And Janine says, I've done the millimetre scan and cut. If I want to do the inches, how do I create a new one?
Okay, so to do the inches, just literally change your document unit to inches, and then click on the little plus, and that brings you up another one. So the sizes for the inches, so 11.65 by 11.73. And did you say Linda wanted the millimetres?
No, Janine was saying she's done 1 in millimetres, but she wanted if she wanted to create 1 in inches, how she did it and how she created the new ones. So.
Yeah, so.
Joyce giving us a thumbs up.
Okay. So you can just let me know, Janine. So while we're waiting, if you go to devices, you can see that you have all your sizes for your most common user interfaces for tablets and things. So if you want to eventually get into the realms of creating your own apps, you can do that in Affinity too, in terms of how they're going to look. And you have your architectural sizes. What, the architectural sizes? Having worked in an architect, I can honestly say that they wouldn't use those sizes. They always stick to the ISO sizes, so it's probably more of an American architect thing.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious because I've seen it there also, but never used it. Doesn't seem to want to work. I'll try later, don't worry. Probably a user error.
So just make sure that you just click that little plus, so if I use that one, and go to inches, and then it should change to custom there, and then just click on the little plus. It's just to the left of it. And then that should let you add another one in. I might just do it for that one actually. Let's do it for the 12 by 24 so you can see me do it. So change it to inches. It's going to change to custom up here. Click on the little plus. It's going to go to unnamed. Go down to the bottom. Right click. Rename. And scan and cut. 12 by 24 active area inches. Okay.
Can you move them around so they're all together, or do they stay put where they go?
No, stay put.
So,
So if I'd been organised, you see, I'd have done them all at once. Oh well. So, let's go back to Ian's 300 by 300 mil document. And we're going to create it. And it's going to be there. Come on. Thank you. Usually it goes back on its own accord, it's just because, yeah, streaming.
probably. Yeah. It's doing too much all in one go.
Yeah. What did you want me to do? Okay, so welcome to Designer. And this is the view that you're going to be met with most of the time when you log in and you've got a new document. So down this left hand side we have our toolbar. Down the right hand side we have what's called the studio, and you can pop different bits into your studio. And across the top we have the context bar, and as you see, as we work with different tools, different things are going to come up across here so that you can do different bits with it. So for instance, if I go on the artboard tool, it's going to give you the size and then insert artboard.
Sally says, can I press on scan and cut here then?
Yep, if you want to.
And then it's just the create button down the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it with a double click as well?
let me try. Come on, Affinity. Yes.
There you go.
There you
Marie says I have no grid on paper.
go. Okay,
Explain
grids.
grids.
So, I will get on to grids in a minute. So, we have our context bar, and then across the top we have these buttons that stay pretty static. So, these three here are going to be the ones that are going to confuse you the most. So if I start off now confusing you, then everything else is going to seem nice and simple. But these three buttons are going to make Designer look very different. So the first one is our Designer persona, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's what Designer is meant to do. The next one is Pixel persona. So if we click on this one, you're going to see that our studio is going to change, and it's going to start to act a bit more like Photoshop. So we have brushes, we have the selection tools. So if you were watching Ian's stream yesterday afternoon, and he was saying about the differences between Designer and Photo, there's kind of a grey area in the middle that is this screen, because it has some of the functionality of Photo already built into Designer.
Don't have the words underneath, under the top boxes.
You can add those as an option in the preferences, which I did it because I'm doing lots of screenshots at the moment, so it's easier for me to do that way.
She goes into, so where is that in preferences? Oh, so you've got preferences on the top that you can click on, can't you?
No, that's slightly different. That's document preferences. So if we go in here to user interface, and where did I put it? I know it's here somewhere. See, I don't think it's that one.
Is it in Mutals?
Might be. That's really bad. My brain's just like blank. Because I know I turned it on, but I can't remember how to turn it back off again. It's got to be in there. It's probably staring right at me. Because I can change the font size on it, but I can't remember how to do it. Let's see if it turns. No, it's not that one. Can't see it's those though. I know it turned it on. I'll have a look later for you and see if I can find that. Save time dragging too much. But it only really gives you like a generic what it is, if that makes sense. And then if you hover over the buttons, you'll get a tooltip.
I'm just sorry not to give you a headache.
I know I definitely turned it on because it was something that I needed to do for a screenshot. Because I was doing these over here. So when you're working in the pixel persona like this, everything you do in here cannot go to your scan and cut. Okay, so if you're working on something for print, then yes, you can use all the tools that are in Pixel and it's absolutely fine, but your scan and cut will not be able to use anything that you use in this persona. So that's the way to think of it. So if you think that's for the scan and cut and that's for your printer, and that's probably the easiest way of defining between the two. And then the last big change is the export controls. Now, the chances of you using this bit are really, 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 really slim. So you're only really going to use this if you need to split something up. But it's not really the way to do it for your scan and cut. You're better off trying to be a bit more savvy about how you're doing it in your document and trying to do it through export.
Is it under view? I managed to find it the other day but can't now. Is it under your customised toolbar?
So that's your customised tools, so you can change. Customised tools, I'll show you that one first. So if we go down to view and then customised tools, you have all your tools in here, so you can drag which ones you want to use the most often. And this is how you get to your little cat that he was saying about yesterday. Should you really wish to, there's a little hidden cat, and it's one of those little funny things. If you're wondering what the little line is, it's not actually a tool, it's like a little divider. So if you want to separate your tools out, I'll keep it as is for now, just because that's how all your toolbars will look. But if you want to add in your cat, you can do. You can just click and drag it in. Okay, next one, customize toolbar. So if we go down to view and customize toolbar, there we go. I knew it was somewhere. So we have all our different buttons that we can add. So at the bottom here we have our default toolbar, which is our top one, and you can see I have a few gaps, so I could put in extra buttons if I wanted to. And then you can see here some of the buttons that you can add. So if you find that you're not using all of your geometry, you're only ever going to use add, divide and subtract, you can just have those rather than having the full bar if you want. But I quite like having my full bar up there, it's quite handy. You have your align and distribute option, so you have align up here, then distribute, which is like the spacing, then you have space horizontally and vertically if you want to add those in. And you'll find that you do start to build your layout for what you do. So I've tried to keep mine pretty neutral at the moment because obviously I'm working on the book. So I don't really want to change too much because this is pretty much how it should come in, apart from that text. But it's easier than we keep labelling everything. If you want to add in space, you can do. So these are spaces here. And the status will give you a document name. So when this is saved, that untitled is going to change to the title of the document. And the little star means that it's not saved. So you'll find that when you change something, the star will reappear, and then when you save it, it will vanish again. It's a really good, easy way of saying that whether you need to do a save.
And Senator thanks, much prefer the wording under the boxes.
You'll get to the stage where you'll be like, I don't need it anymore, I know what the icons are, but it's handy for a reminder, or if like me you're doing lots of how-tos. So, next we're going to go on to grids and guides and snapping. So we're still in the view menu, and if we go on to the grid and axis manager, first of all, that's how we can put the grid on our paper. So you do have some presets that you can use, so if you want to set up your own graph paper, you can do, and it can sort that all out for you nice and easily. If you want to do an automatic grid, you can do. Basic just means that you can literally put it in every 10mm. So nice 1cm grid. Advanced is when you can get a little bit more involved, shall I say. So if you want to start doing things like putting in extra angle lines, so if you want to do your own hand lettering, for instance, and you want to set up the italic grid, if you know what the grid's like for hand lettering, you can do that. You can also do like a simple isometric grid as well, and you can even put in a cube one if you really want to, but I tend to leave mine on automatic. So there's lots of options. For today I might leave it on basic actually, it's looking quite good on basic for your 300. So I'm going to leave it on that. Next, so guides manager. So at the moment we don't have any guides set up, but there's lots of ways that we can
go, sweetie, as well.
Sorry.
You just did it and didn't say where you went.
Sorry. So also in the view, just above your grid, you've got guides. So click on that. And in here you can set up manual guides. So if you want to say, let's do a guide at, I'm going to pop one in at 150. Okay. And if we double click on that, we can change it. So let's go for 15. And you can see it's popped in a blue line that goes across here. And that's a guide. And we can do the same for vertical guides too. So you can see it's popped one up and there. And it's going to automatically go to the centre of the page when you're putting them in that way. But then you can just edit them just with a double click. You have column guides, so if you know that you want to create something where you're working in a column, you can put in as many columns as you like to divide up your space. Useful if you're doing labels, because then you can set your column width, how many rows, and then you can do the space between as well. So if your labels are closer together, you can put them like that. And you've got your basic template already set up for your labels. Okay, so have a quick play with that one so you can see how that one works. And you can have that filled or as an outline. I tend to leave mine filled so that it's really obvious to differentiate between being a guide and being a column guide. Also useful if you're doing things like flyers and instructions in Designer.
If you want to do a threefold leaflet.
Yep, threefold leaflets. Business cards. Done that before. Okay, margins. So, although we didn't set any up when we started the document, we might decide that halfway through we want to add some in. So you can just add them like so. And you can see it's going to push our column guides straight over. And it's going to rework out that divide between the two. If we put 10 this side, you're going to see that it's going to shift again. And we can put 10 at the top. And let's say 20 at the bottom. So you don't have to have them all matching if you don't want to. Now, your spread origin, I would say don't mess with that. So basically that's saying that all these measurements start from that top corner. So just leave that as is. going to set this back to just 1 and 1. And that's going to take those columns out. I'll leave the margins in for now so you can see how they work. So if we go to close, you'll now see that we can still move these guides. It's not that they're locked. And we can move this one here too. If we want to bring in more guides, we don't have to go back through the manager. We can just click on the ruler, drag it down, and you make a new guide.
Is the guides located, please? I have looked under view but cannot find the margins, etc.
Okay, so view, and then you're looking for the guides manager. And I'll go into the snapping in a bit when we've got something that you can actually snap to.
Actually, use snapping yesterday on the first time.
Huh?
I used the snap to grid the first time when I was doing my
When you're doing your grid thing.
my grid sheet.
Hmm. Snapping is good.
Handy. I've not got guides manager.
Okay.
Carol's on Mac.
Yeah, Carol is on my Mac. That's a good point. Thank you. So it should be under view and then
Is it
guides manager.
Persona that is wrong, or will it always be? Does it matter which persona?
Let's try it out. No, it's still there in pixel. Still in export. So make sure you got your blue square back on that top bar. So up there it says designer persona, and then when you go to view it should be just there. I might just try and shrink that a little bit just so that we can see it without. There we go. Let's stretch that out that way. That way when I go up here it shouldn't. Yeah, that's better because then you can see it at the same time. Okay, so you'll notice that these do change with each persona. So at the moment you have file, edit, text, layer, select, view, window, help.
Exactly, it was on the wrong one.
Yeah. Persona, the pixel persona has file, edit, layer, select, view, window, help. And the export just has file, edit, select, view, window, help. So they get less and less as they go along.
Yes, that's it. Okay, so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've got some guides on your map. And you can lock your guides. So this button just here locks your guides. So what that means is you can't accidentally click and drag them. So if they're getting in your way or being a bit annoying, then you can lock them and they're literally fixed in place. Likewise, if you need to move one and it's not moving, chances are you've inadvertently put lock guides on. So it is one of those ones that you can set a key press for. I haven't currently, but if you want to, you can do.
Sandra's asked, is this just relevant for this document or stays as is?
In terms of where they're set up, it's literally relevant for that document.
The grids stay, don't they?
The grid will stay, but your guides are document specific. So if you want to use that same guide layout again, you can set it up as a template rather than a preset. So if you notice when we did new, there's a button that says templates and you can go in there. But I don't tend to show that as much for beginners. Mainly because beginners don't tend to use presets that often. They're useful for things like if you want to put a watermark consistently across a load of designs. So if you want to do SVGs for sale, then you can do it that way and put your logo on the actual file as well as using your metadata. Show rulers is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the rulers at the top and the side. Column guides, again, if you've left your columns on, then you can turn them on and off without having to remove them. Show grid, again, if I untick that, you can see your grid's going to disappear and you can bring it back without having to change anything. Show guides does exactly the same but for the guides. Show margins. And show bleed. So you'll see I have show bleed ticked even though we didn't set it up. Makes no difference.
That's good. Can make the alterations anytime or only on setting up. You can change them anytime.
Anytime. So you'll see that as I go through I might pop a guide up just to give me a reference point for something else.
Oh, you can change the colour of the grid.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to have it boring grey for the grid. You don't have to have it blue for the guides. You can play and see what works for you. I tend to leave it blue because Illustrator defaults to blue as well. I think CorelDRAW does too. Where was I? Brain, come on, help me. View mode. So for the most part you want to leave that in vector. And finally Studio, the big one. So this is that panel down the right hand side of the screen that I said about right at the beginning of the tour. And you can see all the different elements that you can swap in and out of that panel. You can also pull them out of that panel if you're doing things like screenshotting a particular point, which is why I had a couple that were scattered about. So you have 32-bit preview, never going to use it, ignore it. Appearance, so that's literally like it says on the tin, it's the fill, the stroke. Assets, if I tick this one, so you know how Ian was saying about the left hand side, assets pops up over here, and it comes in with just this one, which is basically like a dummy run for creating an assets panel, and you're never going to use that one, so don't worry about it. If you want to create your own, you can do. So you can create a new category and then start adding bits in.
Sandra's asked how do you change the colour of the grid?
So in your grid and axis manager you can just click on your grid line and you can change it to red, purple if you want to. You can change it to blue. You can make it sort of lighter so it's really soft. You can make it darker if you want it really strong. You can give it so it's like a bluey grey. Makes it feel like a school book. So the grid doesn't print, so it is literally just there for your reference. So don't think, oh, I can make my own grid paper. Well, you can, but you've got to literally draw over the top of your grid. So assets is there for when you want to transfer information between documents. So if you wanted to create multiple designs, so for instance, if you wanted to create one document that had 12 by 12 papers in, another document that had 3 by 4 journaling cards, if you wanted to another document that had digistamps and each one of those had some elements that went through, then you can use assets to do that nice and easily. So assets go between multiple documents, and that's the way to remember them. But for the most part, you don't use them that often. Brushes. It's a bit of a misnomer, that one. So when we come back to the pixel view this afternoon, I'll go in a bit more detail about brushes and how they work in Affinity, because there's two types of brushes, just to really confuse matters. So you have vector brushes and you have pixel brushes. So I'll go into those because I know Carol was asking about brushes, wasn't she?
Yes.
So I'll go into more detail about how to use those. Character. So this is your text settings for your type, basically. So character controls everything about a sentence, and then you have paragraph for text in a frame, basically.
Okay. Marie says I just have asset lists, not icons. How do I change?
So under assets, you just have
An assets list just have the icons.
So you have it like that. So show as list. And if you want to tick it, it's just going to do the icons. But there's loads in there, and the chances of using any of it, because I can honestly say I've never used a single bit in that entire little asset box. So you can create your own and go from there, but in terms of that one,
on a PC, it may not have the
may not have the icons.
because it's
yeah, because it's a
PC.
PC.
Have it, so.
Yeah,
As soon
always
as I have it installed and up and running again, I'll let you know.
Yeah, PC is being...
PC.
Yeah. So. I got two characters, didn't I?
Sorry. Oh.
So, colour. And you'll see it's got a little tick next to it because it's hiding over on the right hand side. So if I go over here, you'll see, and I'll drag it out so you can see all of it. We have a stroke, a fill, no colour. So if you want to remove that colour. We then have sliders, and we can change how those sliders appear. So if we go to RGB, you'll see it's going to change the little RGB sliders. And you can, with every panel, you've got a little 4-line with a little arrow in the top right. On PC it may be top left because of where PCs like to put their X buttons. And you can change that to the wheel. So if you're more familiar with this kind of system, then you can work with a wheel. You have the boxes, as it puts it, so that you can pick your hue, and then you can say how dark you want it, how saturated. So everything from grey all the way to really saturated. Tint. So that basically puts a tint on the currently selected colour. So if I change colour now, let's go to pink and then go to tint, you'll see that it's changed that pink, and we can make that lighter. So it's a good way of tweaking colours, that one, if you think it's just a little bit too dark. Copy colour to clipboard as hex, you're probably never going to use, so don't worry about it. Okay. The only time you're really going to use that is if you're referencing it for instructions. Add a colour to swatch. So if you decide, right, I like that colour, and I'm going to say add colour to swatch. If we go to our swatches panel, you can see it's added it to my greys, which is really useful. So we can start a new palette if we want to. Actually, I might show you that one when we've actually put something in the document, so that we can show you how to create that from scratch. And you can add a chord. So if you want to do a little bit of colour theory, you can do it in here. So you have complementary, split complementary, or your usual colour theory. And you can see it brings it in with the original colour and the ones that it's worked out that would go with it. Bit of another one, that one. Okay. Next in the list. So back to view in Studio. Constraints. You're only really going to worry about when we start to get really into the nitty gritty of creating 3D files, so don't worry about that at the moment. Effects. Again, with cut files you don't want to be using effects because they actually get exported as images from Affinity. So the only time you really want to be using those is if you're doing something for print. Glyph browser, which is a fun one. So if I let go on that, you can see that we have a character swatch, so you can change.
Linda says I had all the icons on the PC. Okay, thank you, Linda.
And you can see all the parts of a font. So any scripty font you'll usually find has lots and lots of options. So you can see not only do we have a Y, we have a Y with a tail before it, a Y with a tail after it, and a Y with a lovely little curl at the end. So that's the time when you'll be using glyphs, and I'll go into that a bit more when we get onto text. So I'm just going to close that. Let's take these swatches back up there for a minute. So back to Studio. History, so that's all the things that you've done so far in the document, and you can actually save your document with history as well. And what that means is if you need to go undo, you can actually undo back before you saved. Isometric, yeah, that's one for advanced users when we start looking at isometrics. Layers, if I select that one, so you'll see that we have our artboard in there already, and then as we add to that you'll see that your layers palette is going to increase. So I'm just going to take my assets out of the way so I can drop my layers over there for a minute. Are you okay, Ian? You sound stressed.
Okay, I'm getting this around.
Navigator is useful if you're zoomed into a file and you need an easy way of getting around. Paragraph is text in a frame. If you think about it that way, it's easier. Snapshots are a bit like history, but you can take fixed points in time that you can always go back to. So think of it as a bit like saving a version of a file. So if you get to a point and you think, yep, I like that, take a snapshot. Stock, I'm going to go in a bit more detail about in a minute. Stroke is the effect that we apply to the path. So in terms of whether it's dash line.
Can you just ask, this layer is similar to canvas?
Yes, it's identical. Styles, again, isn't something that you're really going to get into when you're doing cut files. Swatches I've shown you. Symbols I'm going to come on to in a bit, so I will pop it up in that and you're going to look at that and it's going to be empty. That is normal. Don't think there's something wrong if it's empty. It's a new document. So symbols basically is a way of locking in data. So you'll see when we start to work with a bit more how it works, but it only links to that document. So whereas assets will go between multiple documents, symbols stays with just this document. Text styles you're unlikely to use, to be honest, and transform is the little panel down the bottom right, just here, that says the position, the size, the rotation and the skew. So I'm going to pop my layers palette just there. Toolbars. So down this left hand side we have, starting with our arrow tool, so that's exactly the same as the move select tool in any other design software. So that's going to be the tool that you're going to use for resizing, for dragging, for rotating. And I think that's a message.
It's only pretty good, Scooty.
Oh right, okay. Okay, artboard tool. If we go to insert artboard, we can add extra pages. So if I zoom out, so to zoom out and zoom in, you can use your command or control and your minus and plus. Can you mute it please, Ian? So if we press and hold space, you're going to see your pointer is going to change to a little grabby hand. We can then click and drag and we can pan round our artboards. Okay, and you'll notice that our grid is only showing on the active artboard that we're actually using. So you'll notice it's vanished off our first one, and it just basically shows you which you're working on.
Sally says I've not got toolbar.
The one down the left hand side here. So if you go to view and show toolbar, it should have a tick next to it. As you get more confident with your key presses, you'll probably be able to turn it off. But
So how did you add new board? So if you can just do the new board.
okay, so with your artboard tool selected, you want to just click insert artboard, and I will mute my computer because that's going to get annoying. Okay, so you should have two artboards and you can change between the two. Now if you notice, our first artboard has our guides on. So here's our guides that we set up. But when we change over to artboard 2, it's just got our grid on. That's to show you that you can have different guides set up for different pages. So don't think that you have to have the same guide on every page. They actually differ between the pages. So our next two sets of tools have, well, our next set of tools has a little arrow. So we know that if we press and hold, it's going to give us two options. So your top one is the node tool, and that's how you're going to edit most of your shapes. And you have the point transform tool. Now with this one you're going to see what that does in a bit. You need to have a shape to work on. We also have a corner rounder tool. So again, that's something we need something on our mat to play with. So without further ado, let's get you started. We have a pen tool next, and you'll see that when we have our pen tool selected, it's automatically come up with the standard setup for that tool. So the fillet is empty, so most of the time that's what I would select. Let me move my layers out of the way. Stroke, I'm going to want to make that black. So quickest way is to just click over here as long as that's black. But you can also use your wheel, or you can use your swatches. Okay. point size for strokes, 24 is absolutely fine, okay, as is having it as just a solid line. And then everything else on that line, don't worry about just yet, okay. So at the moment we've got Artboard 2 selected, so we're going to zoom into Artboard 2. Okay, so let's start over here, and we're going to just do a little bit of practice with our pen tool, just so that we can get used to how it works. So if we click once, that's going to give us a start point, okay, and then we can go and give a click and a drag, and that's going to give us a curve. And you can see already it's popped up in our layers palette down here, and we have a little preview that's showing our curve already. So that little preview is pretty live. So I'm going to add another bit, and you can see straight away our preview's updated. And we can just click and drag, and that's always going to give us a nice soft even curve. So just get used to that action to start with. So each time you're going to click to place the point and drag to drag out your handles. So each one of these points is what we call a node, and it's a place where basically your scanning code will get the information as to where it's going next. So the more nodes there are, the noisier your machine is generally going to be. So we want to see that you have a nice smooth path, but with as few nodes as possible. So you can see there's lots of space between my nodes. If they're really close together, chances are they're a bit excessive and you just need to lose a few. Okay. Now if we just click instead of doing a click and drag, you'll find that you get a corner. Okay. So just practice doing some corners. And at the moment this is what we call an open path, because it has a start point and an end point. Now if you want to leave that as an open path, you can hit enter at this point, or we can close it. So if we go back to where our start point is, we can click and close. Okay, let's go over here.
Gav says icons are not clicking, so not getting anything coming up.
Okay, so
Paula's at the vet, so she'll catch up later.
okay. Sorry to hear that. So Carol, when you say it's not clicking, when you're changing between these, are you getting it so that that top bar is changing? Or is it when you're actually clicking on these bits that you're finding it's not working? I'm just going to take the colour out of that one. There we go. If you're finding it's not responding to you, sometimes just clicking a little bit longer, if that makes sense, helps. Clicking with intent. And just make sure that your stroke has a solid line to it so that you can see it. If you're having problems with your clicking and dragging, make sure that your mode is on that first little button so that we're getting a nice curve.
She says, no, nothing is working. No pen, no pencil, etc.
Maybe restart Affinity then.
Yeah, that sounds like a software issue rather than...
Yeah. Sounds like it's hung.
I've had to re-download, of course, to do that. I've had to get an email sent. Of course, it doesn't go to that computer.
Okay.
I'm getting there slowly.
So just make sure that you've got that mode on that first button, so that it's on pen mode. So one of the things I love about Affinity is the smart guide. So you'll notice that as I'm going around the map, it's popping up different lines. So your red lines are your horizontal guides. So you can see it's trying to show me where this path here comes so that we can line up to that. Your green ones are your verticals. So you can see it'll line up to that node. It's going to go to the edge on here, so, and then where you've got things like this little yellow dot that's just appeared, that's where it's actually intersecting with your smart guide. So you can click there and you can start something else, and you know it's exactly.
Janine says, I'm curving now, but can you just show me how you get the nice smooth curves?
Okay.
Please.
So, once you've had a good practice with getting some curves, I'm going to start refining your skills. So, let's start a path. And this time, you're going to click and drag, but this time we're going to press and hold the shift button at the same time. So what this is going to do is it's going to constrain those handles to the 45 or 90 degrees. So you can see it's snapping between. And it can also do a few others in between up here. But most of the time you want to try and keep your handles either horizontal or vertical or 45. And ignore the fact that it's doing that, it's just being a bit dense. Okay. Now if we were to press that shift before we place that dot, you can see that it's automatically putting this yellow line in. Let's call it gold rather than yellow, because it's a bit more accurate. And it's showing you a guide for where you can put that point that is constrained to the 45, to the horizontal or to the vertical. So if you want to have a perfectly straight line, we can take that down vertically. So bear in mind this handle here is vertical in the first place, so you know that line's going to be nice and straight.
Claire says she's restarted, but nothing is working. We'll carry on watching. She's going to carry on watching, try later.
Okay.
We'll do a team viewer.
Yeah, we'll do a team
Carol,
viewer in the
when
break
it's
and get
working.
you sorted. Okay, so hopefully you've got the hang of using shift to constrain, and we can still use that with the curve as well. So you can do a shift, click and drag so that your node is exactly vertical or horizontal, and then you can have the handle also constrained. So I've still got my finger pressed on shift. So if we press and hold shift again, you can see it's going to change the curve. go click, and you can see, although we've done a click here, because our handle wasn't at horizontal, we've still got this nice soft curve going back to this point, and then we can close that shape.
It's probably something simple. We'll have a look at it and we'll sort it, Carol.
So we want to keep those nodes nice and spaced far apart for our design. So if right now you're thinking, I can't draw, don't worry, you don't have to. So next I'm going to show you how to use your shape tools. Now, one of the things I love about Affinity is how adaptable the shape tools are. So you've got lots to choose from in the first place, but all of these shapes are fully editable. Easier for me to say. So I'm going to go for, let's start with a square star tool. And if we press and hold shift as we're drawing, it's going to draw from that first corner, and it's going to keep all of these nice and even. Okay, so that's the square star tool, which is the 7th one down. So you're going to click, drag, press and hold shift, keep dragging, and then let go of your mouse button, and then shift. So you can draw a few of those of different sizes, but use that shift button, and that's just going to help it stay constrained to that point. So let me know when you have a few of those on the mat. And I'll switch back to my move tool for a moment. So you can see in the layers palette, if I extend this downwards, we have all these saying that they are a square star, and that's because they're all shapes rather than paths at the moment. So you want to make sure that they all say square star for this next bit of work.
Just waiting for update. I haven't updated since the 10th of June.
Oh dear.
Yes, so it's downloading. Adrian says she's not got shape tool.
Okay, so you've got the rectangle, the ellipse, the rounded rectangle, and then you've got a tool that is selected. So it could be the triangle, it could be a diamond, and it's got a little arrow next to it. If you click and hold, then you can drag over the top, and we're going to go down to the square star tool, and then let go your mouse button, and that's going to have the square star tool selected.
Sandra says, can you start that again, please?
Yep. So I'll take those out of the way. So click and hold so that you see your list of shape tools. Down to square star tool, and we're going to click and drag and press and hold shift. Then when you're happy with the size of your shape, you're going to let go your mouse button and then let go of shift. In that order. So I'll do that again. So click, drag, press and hold shift, drag out the shape, let go of the mouse button, let go of shift. And believe it or not, at one point this will become just instinct. You'll do it without even thinking. But it's just getting that order into your head. So click and drag, press and hold shift, drag, let go of mouse, let go of shift. And I managed to do those more or less the same size, so I'm just going to drop that down a little bit. So I'm just going to press and hold shift, keep it in proportion, let go again. So again, click, drag, press and hold shift, and I just want a little bit smaller, and another one that's a little bit smaller still. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my move arrow tool, and you should be able to see lots of square stars in your layers. So you can also see that although they're the same shape, that they look a bit different. And that's because of the size of the stroke relation to the size. So the darker one is the smallest one, and the palest one will be the biggest one. Okay, and because we've got our move tool selected, at the moment it just looks like any other path.
It deletes the first one when I try to create the second one. Check your stroke width at the top, make sure it's got a stroke. It's not actually deleted, it's
yeah, check it, and also keep your layers palette open so that you can see if there's anything weird going on, because it'd be really odd if it was deleting items. It's probably just that it's just invisible. If you do need to change the stroke on a shape, make sure it is blue in your layers palette. Then you can go to stroke in your studio, and we can increase the stroke. And hopefully that helps you out. If you need to pop a colour in it, you want to go for your hollow circle, because that's your stroke, and we can change the colour of it that way. So you can see, I can make it pink. The pink's not going to show up very well at the moment. Green, black, grey.
She says in there is mine all look the same. Yep, that's what you want.
Yep. So have a few different sizes to play with as well. Okay, so if we have the shape selected with our move tool, you can see it's got a bounding box that sits outside of the shape itself, and that's your first real big clue that that isn't a path yet, it's still a shape. Now, while you have the move tool selected, you can still move it, you can resize it, you can rotate it, but what you can't do is play with the actual shape settings directly.
I'm not sure what I've done, but I've made clouds.
Clouds are okay, you'll see why in a minute, but clouds are okay. So next, if we go back to our shape tool, and it doesn't matter which one you have selected bizarrely, you're going to see that it's got this red dot just there. Now if we hover over the top, it's going to come up with a pale red line, and it's got a few notches on it, and it's going to snap to those notches. So that's saying that it's setting that according to the width of your petal, to give you a bit of a clue on where we're going. We can set it so that our petals are square, that they're 2 squares deep, and we can take it right down if we want to, And likewise we can go all the way up to being a polygon. Depending on how many sides you have, I'll leave it as polygon. So I've currently got 5 sides selected and a cutout of 42. So if we go up here, we can actually change the number of sides. So we can actually go and increase those so it has more petals, or we can reduce them down to 3. I tend to go for an odd number wherever possible. And we can also do that same action that we're doing with our red line by percentage using our cutout. Okay. So I'm going to do that to a few different levels on our other shapes. So I'm going to select another one. And let's go in on that one. And this time let's go to 7. Okay. Now each shape that you have as a shape tool can actually do different things, so it is worth playing with all of them to see what your options are. But the square star tool is a good place to start. Let's go up to 7 for that one. And for our big one, let's go a bit crazy, shall we? And we can go 25. And we'll take that cutout so it doesn't go necessarily quite so far down.
Good for creating tabs, I would have thought.
Yes, very useful. If you need to do like a cylinder.
If you needed a specific size circle with tabs on it, we could
Yeah.
do in the tabs. So
Yeah, save you going ding 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 ding. Yeah. So let me know when you've got a few different ones on your mat.
And then said thanks, I've made the stroke bigger. I've made the stroke size big now, she's put it. Download me message.
So the other thing to remember is when it comes to creating cut files, your stroke is pretty much identical to your stroke in Canvas. It makes no difference to your machine at all. Apart from if you use a dashed one. So has everybody got some semblance of a flower?
What does the cutout do, please?
So the cutout just changes where this line here is going to sit. So how far those notches come in, or don't, as the case may be. So as Ian said, it's a good way of doing some glue tabs around a circle for if you're making like a cylindrical box. Or maybe a shaker card, if you feel that way inclined.
So I can get to the button at the bottom to download.
Okay. So once you've got all of those shapes on your mat, and you've done all your shape tool settings so that you're happy, we then need to convert those to paths so that we can actually play with them.
Do you need to ask, how do you get the cutouts? Or get to the cutouts?
It's just at the top bar here. So even when you've got your move tool selected, if you want to do it that way, you can just go up there. Or if you want to do it by hand, make sure you have the shape tool selected and you can waggle the red dot. Technical term that. God, blimey, the time's flying today. I was hoping to have got round to putting bitmaps in, but we may have to wait until after the break.
It's longer after the break though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But if there's one thing I love teaching, it's Affinity, isn't it?
Yeah. So you'll just keep going on that.
Okay. So, to convert something into a path rather than a shape, if we have it selected in blue, so it's blue here, and we've got our bounding box around the outside, then we can go to layer and convert to curves. And straight away it's not going to look that different. But if I go to the shape tool now, you're going to see that red dot doesn't come up anymore. And if we go to the node tool, you can now see we've got a load of nodes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these nodes that are around the outside. So if we click and drag, they're going to turn dark blue. Okay. Now if we press and hold shift and click and drag again, we can add some more. Click and drag again with shift still being held. Click and drag again. Then we can get these ones up here with some little selections. These ones down here. These ones here. Okay, so all our outside nodes are selected in dark blue and all of our inside ones are still white. We're going to click on our corner rounder tool, or you can press C, and then we're going to click and drag from that node inwards. So if we drag all the way in, it's going to be like a little scallop. If we only go part of the way, it's going to round off those corners. So for this one, I'm going to go to a full scallop. So you want your circles to overline and release. And we've got a little scallop circle. So, is everybody okay? Got that first little scallop circle?
I'm still keeping an eye on that one as well, don't I? Between the...
Okay, so is everybody okay? Can you just let Ian know?
I've lost the plot, so judging, watching and making notes and...
Who's lost the plot?
What do you need? Making notes and we'll then try later.
Okay, well one of the benefits of having a online course is that you can go back and you can keep practicing and having me here holding your hand and going back over what I'm doing.
If
So,
you have any questions afterwards, we're always around, aren't we?
Yep, we're always around and always happy to help, so don't ever think that you've got to struggle on your own. So, next I'm going to work through all the shapes doing slightly different things. So I'm going to go for this little one next. And again, I'm going to go to Layer, Convert to Curves.
Sarah says she has the blue dots and then lost. Joyce says she managed it with some.
Okay, so your blue dots mean that it's selected and that it's going to work on that shape. So, for instance, on this one, I'm going to apply it to everything. So I can just literally click and drag over the top so that they all turn blue. And then I'm going to go to my corner tool. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag upwards from one of the little inside ones and let go. And it's going to be really hard to see at this point. So if we zoom in, you can see that we've got a bit of a waggly thing going on.
Sally says, don't ask me how I've done it, but I have.
So I can use that for the centre of my flower. Now, at this point, if we were to export that to SVG, it may work, it may not. It's a little bit hit and miss. But to set it in stone so we know it will work properly, belts and braces, we're going to convert it to curves again. Okay, so that sets all those little waggles in stone and draws the nodes. And you can see all the little nodes it's done to put that in.
Lynn says she's lost on the convert to curves, but she'll watch it back.
So basically what convert to curves is, it's taking it from being a shape to actually being a path that our machine can actually cut. So that's the way to think about it. It actually puts all those nodes in place so that the machine knows where it's going. So it's just layers and convert to curves. When you start to get really confident, you can use a command and return, or whatever the PC shortcut is when the laptop bothers to tell me. It'll get there eventually.
As you said, eventually.
Hopefully we'll have it set up for this afternoon. Ian's giving me that look if that's optimistic. So, convert the next one to curves. I'll show you another way. So I'm going to zoom in so we can see what's going on a bit easier. So I've done my convert to curves and you can see you've got all the nodes. Now because it's a square star, all of these are corner nodes, so they're nice square rather than a circle. Okay, so if we click on one of the nodes and we do convert to corner, you can see it's going to automatically put in a round node rather than a square node. So if I undo that again, I'm going to select everything apart from these centre ones. So click and drag over the top, press and hold shift, and we're going to work our way around. So keep shift pressed all the time so that you've got all your outside nodes are blue. Then we're going to convert them to a smooth node. Okay, so every node should then turn to a circle with a little handle. And then we can play with these if we want to. So we can actually pull these handles out and actually start to create some petal shapes.
Do you shift the alt button? No. Shift is the one that either says shift or it has like an upward arrow on it.
It's the one you use to get a capital letter. If you're working on the iPad, it's 2 fingers on the screen. So everything I'm doing on Designer on here on the Mac, I can also do in the same on the iPad. So I tend to have a little dabble on my iPad, don't I, at night? Yeah.
When you feel up to it.
Yeah. So you should have something now that has little handles around this curve and then long handles around this long section. So, like so. And that's how you create a flower shape. So your shape tools are there to make life easy for you. So you know that those centre points are perfectly aligned. You know that all your nodes are in the right place. Then all you've got to worry about is your handles.
Oh, 7 minutes.
7 minutes. Oh, God blimey.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay. Let's think which one do I want to do. So that one's going to go like that. I think it's going to be this one, and I'll take that one out. So, last one. Well, so I'm going to convert to curves. And we can do point transform. So we can actually resize on the fly if we want to. We can also go back to our node tool, and this time let's change them all to curves so you can see what happens then. So select all your nodes so they're blue. We're going to go to convert and smooth. Okay, so straight away you can see it's even put handles on these inside ones.
Action button next to the convert for.
Okay, action buttons. So let's pick a node. I'll go with that one. So our first action button is for breaking a curve, and you're going to see that it's going to turn that node red. And what that actually does is it literally breaks your curve. So if you want to do something where you want it to pop out, then you can break that curve and you can have it so it's still attached to the card and it can pop up. So for instance, if you wanted to use it on a wing on a fairy, you could do that, so that you have the fairy's wing pop out of the card rather than sitting into it. Okay. So next, if you have broken the curve and you want to close it back again, you can close it, and that just puts literally a straight point between your two end points. Okay, I'm going to undo that for a second and close it. Your next one is your smoothing. So if you're working with a shape where you've got some corners and you just want all nice and smooth and round, then you can go to smooth and it's going to do that for you. Join curves is a bit different to close. So close works on one path. So where it's open, it's going to close that shape. So think of it like a piece of string. It's going to join it as if it's a necklace. Okay. Join, on the other hand, is more for when you're working multiple paths. So let's say you wanted to extend the necklace and you've got a little extension piece. You're going to pop that in, and that's what join's there for. So if I show you what I mean, I'm going to draw a path. So I go to pen. Okay. If I press V, I'm going to have an open path. Press P to go back to my pen tool, and V again, and I've got two open paths. So if I shift and select so that I've got both curves selected, I can highlight 2 points so that they're blue, and then I can go to join and it's going to join those 2 points. Okay. But the most useful action that you are ever going to know in Affinity is the last one. So this one here, what that actually does is it reverses the path. So if you think about a path being clockwise and it draws round that way, reverse curve sends it round anti-clockwise instead. And the times that you use that are for text that is playing up when you're welding, because sometimes just pressing that reverse curves button fixes the issue nice and easily without pulling your hair out. So that is the button I could have done with probably last week when I was having issues in Canvas, but Canvas can't quite do the same thing. But it's a really good one to learn, is your reverse curves. So although you can't necessarily see what it does, you can see the difference it makes when you try and weld. It does also change the way that your path cuts as well, because it changes your order of nodes, basically. So if you're finding that you're having issues with a particular shape, presuming it's not symmetrical, then sometimes it can help with that too. If it's a symmetrical shape, it won't do very much. Yeah. Same path, different direction, yeah. So hopefully that helps. But I tend to get into those more so when it's looking at making interactive cards. So just very quickly before we finish, I'm going to layer these up with some colour so that we can see how our little flower is going to assemble. So with our first flower, let's open up a different swatch, shall we? I said I was going to do a palette from an image, didn't I? Because I was going to do my paper.
We can do that after.
Yeah, I'll do that after. So for now, let's go to system, because we should all have that one of some variety. So you may have the window system one, or crayons. My lovely crayons. They don't actually come up as crayons like they do in Canvas. Or you can use the Affinity Colours one. So I'm going to go for shades of blue, and I'm going to swap so that it's going into the big circle. So that's saying that the fill is going to be that colour. I'm going to go slightly different shade, I think, for the next layer. Just going to resize that slightly. So if I press and hold Command and Shift or Control and Shift, it's going to resize from the centre, and then if I move it, you can see it's going to come up with this red line and green line. That's saying that the two elements are centered, and I can let go. If you're not seeing those guides, let me know and I will show you how to sort that out. Then let's go for a different blue again. That's going to go in here. Again, look for that green and red line. And let's pop a little bit of a yellowy colour. Yellowy greeny. At least it is on my screen. My screen isn't the best for colour, is it? There we go.
Not the most colour accurate, is it?
No. That's usually when I use your computer, isn't it? So we have a flower. So at this point, do a save as. So that's Command Shift and S on a Mac, or Control Shift and S on a PC, or you can just go to File and Save As. I'm going to start a new folder. I'm going to call that Affinity Workshop. And we can call this Flower Exercise 1. Okay. You alright?
Yeah. So you carry on.
Okay. So, if you want to go and get a bit of food, then now is a good time. Grab a cup of tea.
We're back about 1 o'clock.
We'll be back about 1 o'clock. I will pop up a file for you to download. It will be a freebie, so long as it's still available, so that you can have a play with something after the break, and we're going to do a card design. So take care for now, and I will see you in a bit.